and in the air for game number 2. Naturally going back over towards Aaron Gell. Looks like the plane path we were talking about a second ago. Nothing crazy moving into this. It's just diagonal cutting right across the map. And unless you want to go to like Zarky, pretty much everything is on the table that you could want.
Potential for some slight readjustments, but more importantly, it will give teams more towards that northeast side. Yasnaya been a special one. A bit more of looting capabilities and a bit more time on the ground. Gen G already out of the plane. Same goes for Envy.
One thing I did want to note, the Chinky is going to be very contested tomorrow. It's one of those zones that almost all those teams like to go for. Here, we're actually seeing Rickanids come in, and they're just claiming it almost for free because nobody else is making the play around that. They all have their own different drop zones that they want to go to.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about tomorrow because it's going to be a complete mess. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of teams that are just going to be so ignorant to one another and just say, you know what, this is our area, so do one. It's, a doozy.
That is a doozy right there coming down. And he's by himself. So that means that somebody's going to have to make a run over to go for the res. I believe it's Pokemaladoy. It looks like he's going to have to make the push back over there towards it. Yep, he's got himself a buggy, but that's going to cut into both of their loot, and that's going to slow down this team.
Looting time will be slowed down, but it's a res nevertheless, so please don't run him over. Just don't.
I know. I saw it catch the air. I was like, no,
Yeah,
please.
don't do it. No one will make an advance on that. There's no point, to be fair, but people will understand that he's down circle.
I love how he crawled to the door. He was like, I can't even get inside of it. Can't open the door when you're downstage, but just stare at it. Be like, I just want to be in there. They're safe.
To be fair, if your legs were broken, Matchroom, you also wouldn't be able to open the door.
This is true. Well, I don't know. I would try my hardest to reach up. If there are people with guns around, I just broken both of my legs, I would not.
Grabbing the door handle with your teeth,
Yeah.
please let me in.
My hands still work.
Somebody save me. Well, Pokemaladoy at least gets him back on his feet, so Navi can continue. Whether or not Armory Gaming think, you know what, we got a bit more time on these boys, maybe we can camp them. Circle does shift towards the north. That's a hell of a lot of water in play, about 35%. Severny, could this be a good spot for one team? I'm already seeing one maybe just magnetizing towards it, potentially even for Jex as well. So 2 teams are looking and kicking around that. We'll see if there is any major advancement. Good little split, by the way. I can see it on the map from McCoy. He's away from the rest of the team in Yasnaya up on the hillsides, and that gives his team a foothold for the next rotation should the circle be favorable more towards the north.
It's an interesting position. We know the fact that this is where Ace likes to play at, over towards school. Very comfortable inside of this position. Navi is still fairly separated out right now, trying to get a little bit more information, and I think they still have a little bit of time, but they were one of the early droppers inside of this. I would say they dropped a little bit before the halfway point on whenever the plane path came through. With the circle being so far north, I mean, it really favored these teams that opted into a much later drop strategy. Desk was talking about Envy. They just wanted to drop right off the go, and they ended up back down over for Morris. And I think that they have the longest to go out of everything. FaZe is pretty close to the circle by comparison, but kind of quiet to get everything going. I feel like big northern rotations back up along those coastlines in that Severny area around shooting range, Stolber, those hills and those buildings and warehouses around that, that could be early gets for a lot of these teams, making those early rotations. And that's why Navi having that down very early is very detrimental.
You can see the total rankings on the left-hand side. Keep an eye on those two, the teams that are from 10th position down to 16th. That's generally everyone, 3 points and below. 3 teams at the bottom with 1 point each. Okay, one game can change everything. Yes, I agree with that. You can go and just pick up a win and 12, 15 kills and have a 25-point game. That's absolutely true. But for any of those teams that are down between, what, 12th and 16th place, another appalling placement, and potentially you could be out of the running for first in this group completely just after 2 games. There's only 6 if you want to make it out of groups.
So we saw a very aggressive position coming out early from Duckman's last game. Did not go in their favor. Now you can see Armory Gaming running a lot closer together. I'm curious as to make their approach back towards the circle, if they're going to continue to clump or if they're going to go for that more split rotation that we see coming out from Armory Gaming. Looks like they're all going to crash back over here together. See, naturally, Vin back in this position, feeling pretty comfortable. Not a lot of contention coming on. I don't think that FaZe is going to make an approach through here. Nobody back down towards military base, so just looting to their heart's content before they start their rotation.
I never like to suggest it, but with Armory Gaming, Duckmans is such a standout performer. I don't want to say one player carries that entire team, but I think it's fair to say him going down like that, look at what it's done to the scoreboard. Like, he is kind of the heart and soul of that roster. Yes, you go out, you live as a team, you die as a team. I get that, and I'm okay with that. But still, honestly, it's kind of
I
bad.
feel like he's a leverage point for the team.
Yeah.
It's not like everything hinges on him, but a lot of their play style does depend on him having
They
that
might rely on him
outside
too
cover.
much. That's the problem.
That is true.
And him going down initially, if this happens again, you've got to look to the rest of the team switching things up on a pinhead, because they could be in trouble.
So you guys can see how the rotations are coming in. A little bit later rotations for a couple of these teams. Really, the guys over in Milton, no rush at all as all three teams kind of posted up. Gex is making an approach next to Tempo Storm. A couple of shots are going to connect over with Leo. You can see Sophia's up towards the top of the hill. Spray's going to come out from Zampa, not going to connect as everybody does crest over the top of it.
Tempo Storm position will at least be known now to teams that are going to be lingering around them.
Do you think this is a little bit of damage control from Tempo Storm trying to go for early picks? Because they're just right along this line. They knew that people would rotate along this point, maybe seeing if they can get an extra kill or two due to going out so early in that last game.
I think they're getting ahead of the game, if I'm honest. They're in a good position for now for this circle, regardless of where it goes. They will be in the next one. And if they can keep not only the damage control, but if they can keep map control, they can let teams go up there. There are a few areas in the north here particularly that are not only big transitional paths, but are very wide open spaces. And regardless if someone tries to make a pull up on them, if someone tries to go by, like for instance, you just cop for it there, one player in the open, you can pick up points very, very easily. And more importantly, you can spread your wings. You can spread your team here and not actually be spread too thin.
Mm-hmm. We also see the gauntlet come into effect at a certain point. These teams that are positioned out only get about half damage on a player. As they continue their push in, another team will get that other half of it. Tempo Storm now deciding to crash back over around Crossroad location towards the northern part of the river. That's a big gamble that's coming in with a lot of these teams. Most teams are assuming that that river that kind of marks right through the center of the circle, well, I guess down towards the south of the circle. A lot of these teams are going to post up. BC going for a couple of shots back over towards Ace as they make their rotation there.
You mentioned the gun early. I mean, you saw what effect that's had on them. They were an SLR player and they were a Kar 98, both iron sighting. You know you're clutching at straws when you iron sight a Kar 98 at distance.
This is an interesting push coming out from Ace. They have stopped one player back behind, providing a little bit of cover back over towards VC. But this is kind of an open section coming through. Edge is going to go ahead and take down Brexco. That's G2 losing a member fairly early. Remember, these guys were pretty close based off of their looting, and then almost just rotated right on top of each other, making their way inside the circle.
And one of G2's biggest failures is they will be picked apart individually. They like to go on very wide splits and very wide rotations. They're doing the same now. Nelos is completely away from the rest of the pack. Same with Yanis. Chris is on his own. He'll have to fight this one because Vendetta can still see him. Should G2 be able to consolidate themselves, it'll be fantastic because they can keep going. But one of their bigger failures is that they do like to be spread apart. And they do get punished for it.
DJ Boy taking a couple of shots back over towards Hasbo, going back over there, and this, oh, just running away. Well, luckily it's running back over towards a teammate, so at least maybe he can get Ubered and he can pick back up. But DJ Boy having to leave his position, smokes are coming down. Teammate jumps in the vehicle to provide a little bit more support and get into a safer spot.
Can we appreciate how much time and effort went into not only keeping that car alive, each player just instantly puts the smoke down. Don't worry, we'll keep the tires alive. And he just jumps in it and packs it up. But
well, that's kind of one of the dangerous spots about whenever you play gas station is if you lose your vehicles, there's not a lot of cover around that spot. You're pretty dead.
You're either going uphill or downhill. Both of those ways are completely open.
Yeah. Oh no, and there's the free fall down to a knock inside that poor doozy. You can see him back down there in the bottom right. Go ahead and make his way through. He's still alive. He's still safe. So everything's okay.
He's a freak of a player. He's one that's probably going to do wonders for Na'Vi. Like, I think he's the only player between him and...
Oh, still so much water inside this circle. There's not going to be a lot of real estate as it looks like infantry is making the push back over towards Gen G. Got a couple up. We got one up towards the top of it. Nestor's trying to hold his back line. Lin walks up, takes some shots at the motorcycle. That's going to give away his position. Now Lin knows how to play this. Nice push off to the side of it. That's going to get one down. Esther looking back off to one side. One down now on the other side of this, and it's just an exchange firefight trying to fight through that doorway.
Infantry and Gen G. Gen G are actually committing to this one. Whether they overcommit could be a dangerous sign. Longska's inside as well. That grenade's going to be cooked, pin out. Into, oh no! Just misses it. Otherwise, that could have been big. That could be huge, in fact. Taemin Will at least get a bit of damage off Bolang. He has to go for the res here if they want to try and keep players alive. Pio and Taemin, the last two standing. This is really bad from Gen G. There was a poor game last time round. 2 back-to-back would not be good, Matrim.
So you can see Longster holding the top. Looks like he jumped into a little bit more of aggressive position. The res does come through. That time it does bounce through the window. Gonna connect with Bolang, gonna get him down. So with this Longster still trying to hold the top of it, that reposition.
Oh my lord.
Gotta get the damage, but not get the knock. So now we can see that Pio is slowly creeping up back behind this, finding the angle. A lot of stress coming back over towards Infantry Gaming. Pio looks like he has an angle towards one of the windows, but not gonna get the knock, as you can see, going for the reposition for the res. His teamman also gonna do the same, just narrowly making it there in time.
He has to go for this. Surely. Well, he's gone for the res, which is good, but they're allowed upstairs to get their teammates back on their feet. Yes, Gen D will be able to do the same, but now Xiaoyang, he actually gets the res, and now he goes aggressive. This is good.
Oh, is he going to see him? Not going to connect with the shot, so it's a little bit of a peak battle. Grenades could be huge. Bounces it back between those bars, not going to get the damage off onto it, so now it feels like everybody is just contained off the side. Pio shows up, goes ahead and flushes out Longsker. Still looking back over. Another grenade's going to bounce around the outside of those bars. It's so hard to squeeze him right through there, so now Pio has to be super cautious on this approach, and it is just utility being wasted everywhere. This could be very bad for Gen G.
Pio being disconnected from the rest of the pack has actually paid dividends here. It's done them well, so he'll molly the corner to stop anyone sitting on the bars.
But this really kind of gives Infantry more time to regroup, get that meds back up, find a little bit more space, because there's not follow-through grenades that are coming through. Esther's still holding this lower position, just kind of firing in on the smokes. There's a lot of different points that you can see him separate out from, and the Molotov finally getting a little bit of damage there, but that's going to be enough. Pio does get down off of that.
They're burning. They're burning alive.
There's just so much fire everywhere. That's going to be Infantry going down and out first.
So Pio missed 2 grenades through the windows, and I think all players, I'm pretty sure this is like a 9,000 IQ play. All the players mollied the entire top floor and give Infantry nowhere to move. They just cooked them alive.
Every single window, you could see that it was just Molotov after Molotov after Molotov coming through, and that was a good bit of control. Once they realized they had the bottom floor, just take it.
That's really, but in order to do that, you have to coordinate the mollies to throw them at the same time, so they've got nowhere to move. If they've literally coordinated molly throwing to burn the entire top floor,
we've never seen that.
Incredible.
That feels like that is something brand new. That's so much coordination coming in. Duckman's taking a couple of shots back over towards Na'Vi. He is playing a little bit separated out away from his team. They're back down inside the buildings off to the southwest. They've got some control points they can play from, so let's see how this new circle pops over, and it's going back over towards FaZe. We still have a ton of water in this, and a little bit of Stolberg Hillside posted up. This is going to be a messy rotation.
With one of these scenarios now, given where the land is because they're on the coastline, you can pretty much predict where this circle should be going, at least for these teams. And unfortunately, there is nothing to play. There is so little right now. It will pull more central. I think it'll pull central.
At this
With
point,
a little strut there, there's a chance that it maybe goes to the left. But everyone now just has to run the gauntlet. There'll be a lot of attacks on the beach. Envy's already there, and that's because you can hit the slope of it and maybe hide him amongst the water. Severny is a dead zone. Once that's gone, you've got to come out and over the hills. Alpaca's just finding people on the way.
It's just a mess. Everybody's running through, going for the shots. T1 gets dropped off of that rotation, just leaning out of it. Look, there's just bodies everywhere. Vehicles flipped over. Still shots coming in from FaZe in the distance. And Helen's looking back towards us like, I don't think I want to go up that direction, guys. I'll just go ahead and let Ace have that.
Well, we asked for some weird and wonderful circles, and we got it. This is Hell in a Cell right now. FaZe Clan can sit happy. Time and time before, in the old generations of like FaZe 1, even before that, the year previous, this gas station for them and the surrounding areas, the coastal road was a very strong point. They go for the old rotation up past Stalborough, then coming around this one. The issue is for FaZe Clan, should a circle be rather unfavorable from this position now, going uphill will be extremely difficult.
Look at the position from Gen G. They can catch a lot of people as they make their rotation through. They just had to come back over towards the east. That's forcing Na'Vi back along this line. Buggy's taking a little bit of damage there, but they've got that dip that they can play down from. They've made it through the first phase of the gauntlet, but there's still more teams to follow. Envy, we can see that Na'Vi's going to have to be very, very cautious as they make that approach back over next to Envy, and there's still the remnants of T1 ahead of them, so they have to be very cautious on where they stop at.
Pio is disconnected, so he needs to make sure that if he has to get this kill, really. I mean, look at the aggression here.
That's just Pio things.
Oh my God,
right
if
there.
he gets this.
Well, so much damage coming out. got to be cautious off of that one. That is some confidence coming out from PO. He does not even care off of that. He was just standing out in the open, taking the shots back that direction. So smoke's coming out on both sides. See, Envy's taking a lot of damage coming out. Tempo Storm as well. They're fighting across this hillside, but Gex is also looking on the backside of it. Pat Cups is trying to look along the side of this, but he's also right up next to Tempo Storm. Grenade's going to come out, trying to go around the peak of this. And Luke's going to come back on the other side of this, try to go for the res. A little bit more space, but it's still Pat Caps just jumping from smoke to smoke, trying to use the crates for cover. Any box that he can find, but it's going to be Gex that's taking the shots off to the side of him. That's going to eliminate Envy.
North America just currently battering one another. Miluk with the Uzi at least can get Sharp shot back on his feet. How much more he can do. If he can pick up Zamper, it would be huge, but the problem is he has to go out into the open. There are teams lingering and looking across from that side. Pio does get the knock-ons to Bestelotch, the player that was up against the water. That's a damn good shot to challenge someone like Bestelotch, who is a very aggressive individual. Circle comes the way that we kind of expected to. The most land will fit in this one. And that's why all the teams are going to be posting up here. G2, Vendetta, Red Canids, Ghost Gaming, Armory, everyone's almost inside this. The mess is going to come from the side of Severny. Na'Vi, Genji, Gex, Tempo, Storm, VC, they all have to make their way in, and we've got 3 teams that are basically playing bodyguard on the western side.
One thing I want to mention is the number of teams that are presently inside the circle are a lot of the same teams we saw get into those last circles.
Correct.
FaZe, Vendetta, Ghost Gaming, Armory Gaming, they're not one of them that made it that far in, but we can see Red Canids is off to the one side of it. So G2's also making their approach, so we're starting to see repeat people that know how to play these circles, figuring out how to come back in with a lot of people up and alive. Duckman's looking back over towards Ghost. Ghost making the push down. Looks like they've already got Skeet down. Duckman's back off on that side angle for it, and it looks like everybody's hunting for him, but VC just down to the south of Ghost. This is kind of an interesting spot right over here next to Stalber. A lot of back and forth. Esther is right up inside the smoke, and it's right next to Navi. Pokemalda is looking off the side, gonna go ahead and throw down a Molotov. Esther gets away from that.
Pio's killed 2 of them. I mean, I'd be scared if I were Na'Vi. This isn't like to let one player just loosen them like this. Pokemalda might unfortunately burn himself if he's not too careful. Very little life. That's for standing on top of him. Pio's here for the resuscitation, just trying to... Oh,
here's the drive up.
Go for what do you do?
Does get taken down, tries to get something out of it, but Genji now up to 7 kills. Looking back over towards a doozy. He's kind of hiding out. Last member alive for Na'Vi. They only have 1 kill at this point. So he's got himself a little bit of a ridge to play from, but it is not inside the safe zone.
Absolutely no EU bias here. It really scares me, Matchroom, watching a team like Na'Vi being bullied. Quite literally bullied by Genji. That's... You got to think they were down 2 players earlier on when they were going up against infantry. They got themselves back on their feet. They wiped out infantry, and now they're just moving on to the Russians. They are destroying them.
Got Ghost on the high ground and trying to abuse it. DJ Boy down, and yeah, and that's kind of the name of this lobby right now. Is everybody can abuse anyone at any given time. It's all about making sure you got to dictate the game. You got to force everybody to play around how you want to play. Damon just jumps down right on top of Gex, taking a couple of shots back over to him, but it's going to be a doozy that gets the shots and the down onto him. So Genji is eliminated. Oh, that's interesting.
I actually think Pio just got Car 98 off the back of the vehicle. Yeah. I saw it in the kill feed.
Doozy outlives him. He's got the moral victory, but now where do you go next?
Armory Gaming, 11th position. We're seeing some of the old teams, as you did mention, Matchroom, in the previous match, falling at the wayside here below top 10. Doozy just holding on for dear life on the beachhead, and it will be very soon lived because he has only got a very amount of the stim on and needs to turn and face.
FaZe is looking back down towards T1 right now. They're going to hear the motorcycle in a second, but that might give him that extra little bit of space. And up, he's going to get dropped off by nice shots coming out from Sophia. So, no, never mind. I guess FaZe doesn't have to look that direction. They already got people supporting him from the other side.
Enter's just chilling, waiting for Gex to make an advancement over the hill here because they do have to come forward given the position of the blue. But unfortunately, RJ is in the hillside, so they can get the angle also. But McCoy... He's kind of having a beautiful few little games so far. I'm seeing plenty of kills and frags coming out the man. Does knock one of them on the back, so it kind of gives a bit of a stopgap here for Gex, who will be moving forward.
New circle pops, just moves a little bit more centralized. FaZe still has those buildings to play around. Ace is just huddled back down in this dip, trying to deny vision off of so many angles. It's like Gex is trying to make a little bit more of an aggressive push, but there's so many teams that can see back on this angle. You can see it's just tracers coming in from every angle right now. Leo's trying to get something out of this, but there's just hellfire and bullets on every angle for it, while Joy is just looking back up that hillside. Every time they peek down, it is so dangerous.
Just so you're aware of where teams are currently, Red Canadians are just holding down on the plateau towards the south side of the main houses. Vendetta are going to be lingering around them, though. G2 coming out of the forest to where we see FaZe usually rotate from on that eastern side. T1 is making an advancement outside of the gas station onto Entus. Gex falling by the wayside. RG also want to get involved in this one. The grenades could do some damage, and if it does, it'll ring the alarm bell, Matrim, and they'll maybe just hope and pray that they're ready for the receiving end of it.
But that is going to distract away from what was going on with Ace. They were looking back down on that angle. Doesn't really matter. I was going to say maybe that might give Gex a chance to make the way down, but FaZe is still just taking those shots onto this. Everybody from T1 has to be cautious. Jeff, as he made that approach, had to make sure he was keeping an eye out for FaZe. FaZe is dictating so much of the movement inside of the circle based off of the sight lines that they have. Nobody is within 200 meters of them right now because anytime somebody tries to make the approach, somebody's got that angle on them.
I think the bigger problem is Red Canadians hiding. There's like a plateau on the main road, and they should have vehicles there, I would have thought as well, so no one dare go further afield, more centralized. Because if you do, they're going to kill you. It's as simple as that. Vendetta is right next to them, so like the main road is straight up a no-go zone. You have to play a plateau of a hillside here. Hopefully, Ghost Gaming can play a bit more reactive to the situation that they're in, because I'm seeing RJ surround them from multiple angles.
Everybody's loaded up inside of the UAZ. T1 has the angles off on one side. It is just dead body dropping out of this over and over. Jumps out, and it's going to be T1 holding this down. And that's going to be Ace, our winners from last round, getting aced themselves and removed from the game.
At least they made it into top A and picked up some frags along the way. There are teams that have had worse runs than that, so it's not too bad. You get the old curse of winning one and going out in 16th.
So with this, you can see we're in the points positions right now. 7 teams alive, 20 still holding it down. Look at the control FaZe has over the circle. The only problem with it is they're so far towards the edge of it. If anything moves away from this position, it's going to be very difficult because now they have to cross those zones of demarcation that they themselves have set.
But this is why it's so important to get the knocks now with the 100%. Height advantage on top of the buildings that was provided. There's also what I would call a level 3 building up there when you can go into the high tower and look across. If they can get knocks on these positions, you remove them.
Ooh.
And with good reason, because now FaZe, it's time to move. You've been gifted a very good circle for a very good game. Now it's time to test them. What have they got left in the chamber? Teams will be lingering on that main road. And unless they go for a wide rotation, the safer option will be to take the forest side.
Yeah, this is a very interesting rotation point you have to go through. There is G2 that's along the hillside, as well as Vendetta. Red Canid still holding down that 1 point. You can see the spread coming out now as Ghost is still controlling back down towards the southeast, and Rascal Jester is just kind of separated out around as well. There's only 3 teams that are kind of in the circle. Technically 2, because Ghost is right on the edge of the circle and keep bouncing back and forth between it, but all the violence is going to be happening up towards the north as G2 has to figure out how they're going to move through this, and Vendetta is just waiting. This looks like a trap just being sprung at any given moment.
FaZe are going to go for that plateau that I've been talking about.
Just full send. You can see they hopped inside the vehicle. They're making the push over towards it, and a crate.
That knock's huge. Okay, it was stolen. Let's not talk about that. It was stolen regardless, but that's huge because that knocks Chris out from watching the back angle. FaZe can make something on this one and push in now. The problem was getting in there in the way of G2. There are 3 teams over here. This is going to be madness.
G2 is under a lot of pressure right now. Grenades are starting to come down. It's just drop after drop. As you can see, Red Canid's also joining in the fight. G2 just walked into a meat grinder as 3 different teams are just tearing them apart from so many different angles. Nellis is trying to figure out, okay, what do I get out of this? They've only got 1 kill. Trying to hunt down another. Goes for the spray back over towards it and cannot accomplish anything. They just get dropped out.
G2's gone. Vendetta, they're down but not out. They can get their bodies back on their feet if they need to. Uber has managed to pick up a crate. I mean, Christ, if he wasn't strong enough as it was, give him level 3 gear and watch him go. Let's see what other gun he's got once it eventually shows up on screen. He might not even go for it, just honestly keep the mini at this point because he's so damn good with it. Yes, he does indeed. M4 in the back pocket as well to take on the assault that will be waiting. And when I say waiting, I mean lying down. It's cooked.
Coming out, but the spray is very good. Gets a little bit of damage off. T1 pops out. They opted to go back down towards the south, but look at the Shinobi just has the angle. He is the thorn in so many team sides right now. That's going to be a couple more kills coming out, but you can see FaZe just walks up and says, Red Canids, this is our part of the circle. You just go away.
They've pushed all the teams that were here completely out. Yes, third party, fourth party was a real thing, but they've still stepped up at the right time and taken so many angles to cover so many different positions. They've essentially removed an obstacle completely from the wayside. I spoke about Ghost Gaming earlier on in the position of maybe getting overrun. They did lose one player during the time of what we've just seen in the past circle. Vendetta, they lost one player also, but they are squeezed up against the edge, so you would expect them to have to move soon. For RJ, it's a big old split, and one of the players just been knocked all the way against the white, all against the blue. The white does not favor them. In fact, the white only favors one team. I'm hearing G-Core somewhere in the distance ringing aloud.
So with this, FaZe has so much control to work around. There's a couple of little dips, rocks that they can make use of. But now it's just going to be trying to gatekeep teams out, maybe try to force them to fight each other, depending on how these teams move. There's a lot of them back over towards the east. You can see Vendetta, Ghost looking back on that angle. Jester still spread out back down across the south, but there's not a lot of good places to play around inside of the circle. So a lot of these teams could be vying for that spot that they think could win them the game based off of how do we fight FaZe's position, and that's going to force them right next to each other. Ghost trying to get some shots back over towards Vendetta, does get one of them down. McCoy jumps away from the grenade, still just bouncing around through them. Look at this. This is very brave, just walking through where the grenade lines are falling, trying to get that better spot. Critical motion, moving over towards the rock, trying to see if maybe that high ground might buy him a little bit more sight line towards somebody's head. But McCoy playing this very aggressive, has to be cautious. Rascal Jester is wanting to be a part of this. McCoy does duck back behind the tree. Drassel's back behind him, trying to get into a position to provide a little bit more cover, but critical motion has such a beautiful angle here.
All these shots, though, are giving away position, and I'm seeing Moshamaru slowly creep up this hillside. I actually like the aggression here from Ghost Gaming. Just get stuck in. What have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose.
8 kills in 4th place. So with this, grenades coming out. Critical motion now in some trouble. Shot's gonna come out, and now it's gonna be a lot of damage going through. Ghost gets dropped off of that very, very quickly, and Vendetta takes a lot of damage as well as they get eliminated off this. So FaZe Clan now looking back over towards Rascal Jester. We saw Shinobi have a hell of an end game, not last game, but can he pull off the chance to do more damage to one of these teams? Because there's just the two of them looking back up against a full 4-man FaZe.
Not a single knock across this in roster so far. It's going to be a clean win if they do get it. They're going to go for the 4-man sweep. 2 left back, 2 on the forward, split side by side, watching for the snakes. But with how open this area is, there's a couple of rocks and trees you can play off of, but apart from that, it is just barren. It's open field.
7 kills in FaZe, walking away with an early game victory could be a big moral blow to a lot of these teams. New circle pops, no surprise at this point, going to favor FaZe. They're running a beautiful split across this, just trying to get as much control as possible. Rascal Jester has to find some way to approach this, and there's not a lot of clean sight lines to really play around, so they're opting to move back along those hillsides. That's going to be Shinobi getting spotted out, damage coming through, he gets dropped. Now it is down to just one. A long throw comes out, trying to connect with that. Rishmaru does manage to get one of them down, but that's just a spin back over from FaZe, and so our round 2 winner is going to be FaZe Clan.